Good morning, good evening, welcome back to the channel. For those who have no idea what's going on right now, go check out part number 1. We are reacting to Bradford City's fans forum from yesterday. Make sure to drop a like on there for me, subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Get your thoughts in and down in the comment section down below. That is the most important thing. I think episode number 1 of this 2-part series video thing was nearly an hour long, so fingers crossed this one is not quite as long. So I do apologise for taking up quite a lot of your time on this Thursday evening, but let's carry on, continue where we left off, and let's see what the rest of this fans forum comes out with.
Alexander, hello. You're still here. Yeah. Manager of Bradford City. Look, some questions have come your way as well from when we put out the initial plea for fans to get in touch. I'm going to start with a question that I think comes up at every fans forum when a manager is being faced with questions from supporters. It's an age-old favourite of mine. Thomas Brett, could you please ask GA why we bring every player back to defend corners against?
Certainly. So I've got experience of answering this question, and so has every other manager. But we're defending a corner. We're not attacking the other goal. We're defending our goal first and foremost. There's so much invention on set pieces now from different clubs. There's a lot of preparation and analysis goes into it, and they change from week to week. So you can watch a team 3 times on the trot, see 8-10 different variations of a corner or of a free kick, and first you have to stop the opponent from scoring, as in man for man. Then we pick up certain zones where goals are statistically scored from, and then other positions to help anything that might happen in a different way. So there's an insurance, a safety net from there. I think that's what it is. I think, and if you looked at the actual stats, and I hope I'm not, tempting fate here, but the stats of conceding straight from corners are very minimal, and that.
See, this is something that I know a lot of our fans have a problem with, is bringing all the players back from set pieces, and especially corners, and I personally don't really have much of a problem with it. I agree with Alexander, you're defending your own goal. It's much better to have bodies in your box. The likelihood of scoring from the opposition corner is very, very minimal. So even though players like Harry Chapman, Bobby Poynton are largely ineffective when it comes to defending set plays, I still think I'd rather have an extra body in the box than stood on the halfway line, not really impacting things, if that makes sense. So for me personally, having every player in the box, it's not too much of a concern. And also, statistically, we've not conceded that many goals from direct corners so far this season. I remember away at Wrexham in the AFL Cup, at home to Walsall, I think, for their 3rd goal. But apart from that, can't really remember too much in terms of direct goals from set pieces.
That's our first priority when we're defending corners.
Another question for you, Graham. Obviously, we've seen Jake Young come back, recalled from his loan spell at Swindon. He played in the recent game, started against AFC Wimbledon. This one from Stephen Lowe says, why are you playing Young as a lone striker?
I didn't play him as a lone striker.
I suppose, I think, if I was to explain that down the middle.
We played him down the middle, but it was part of a front 3 with Alex Gilliard and Harry Chapman, who we put Gilly in there because of his running power, and we needed to stretch the opposition. Same with Jake and his pace, and then we felt we needed energy added into that after the previous cup game on the Tuesday. We never isolate a striker, and we have looked at that. I think we did. The 2 guys either side were a little bit deep in general play, so we tried to correct that with our subs and with our analysis this week. But it was our intention to play the formation we started, which was a 3-4-3, which we played in the previous couple of games. And I've said it before, I'll never isolate a striker. If it is, it's because we haven't done the job well enough, and I have to correct it and help the players understand why we need more support up front.
This one from David Mann, who says, the majority of fans see the team perform at home games rather than away. Our home form has been disappointing for several seasons now, and I know that was a point that you raised when you initially came to the football club, the home form, since the club had been relegated from League One into League Two. Would you agree that good home performances and positive results are the key to creating a positive relationship between the club and the fans?
Yes, I would, yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think, like you say, we get 18,000 at home, as many as can travel away. But even when we take a great following to like Doncaster, for instance, and we play excellently. I think it was 3.5. I think that day, or 3,000. Yeah. That's still 15,000 Bradford fans not there to witness it firsthand. So I understand that they can see from the result and they can hear from the friends that we played well, but they want to see it. You know what I mean? That's the reality. So it is an age-old problem, I would say, with Bradford City. Unfortunately, I think there's elements that Bradford can do better. I think there's elements that the opposition obviously try to do better at the club, and there is a different mindset 100% with an away team from a usual game. It's almost dealt with as a one-off game for a lot of teams, different from other games in a typical League Two fixture. So these are things that we have to overcome, and this is what we speak to the players about and the staff, that we have to understand the problem first and then find the solution to it. So that's where we are right now, because in the successful teams that I've managed previous, we've always had strong home records as well as very good away records, because if you want to be successful, just having a good home record is not going to achieve that. So it's about winning games home and away. But certainly with the fan engagement and the relationship and the emotional connection between supporters and their team, then a strong home record certainly benefits that.
Given that we're talking about Valley Parade, we have had quite a few questions in regards to the home stadium of Bradford City. Ryan, this one for you from Nicholas Clifford, who says, what is the plan for the stadium given that the lease is due up soon? Are there plans for Stefan Rupp to buy the stadium and pay it back over the years?
Well, I think it's two questions there. It's an interesting one, obviously. Always will be, Valley Parade. We touched on it earlier in the show there. The answer is no. There is no plans for Stefan to buy Valley Parade at the moment, if we're being honest.
Surprise, surprise.
There doesn't necessarily need to be. We've got a few years left on the lease. We've got an excellent relationship with Gordon Gibb, which I'm really proud we've built up. And he's very helpful to us as a partner of the club, which he wasn't really in the room before. And I think that's really positive to have your landlord working hand in hand with you. I think conversations will be had. Those conversations are already on the table about the future. We've got a few more years left on the lease, and there's a 25-year extension on the table for us to sign at 6 months' notice or not sign. I think you have to look at where Bradford's at as a city to think clearly about what Bradford City's viable options are. But what I know is we have a wonderful stadium that means a lot to a lot of people, that costs us £500,000 a year at least at the moment to rent. It's very expensive to run in general, 1.3, 1.4 million in cost just to turn the lights on and put a match on. However, it generates the football club all of its revenue, and that allows us to have, let's face it, we had some great moments last season, which I won't ever forget while I'm alive, and I hope we have many more, preferably this season. So,
I mean, I think he's touching on games like, the Colchester home game there, potentially, where we scored 2 goals in the last minute, but I wouldn't say I would particularly remember them games for the rest of my life. If we'd gone and got promoted that season, potentially you look at them and think, a 93rd minute winner at home in front of 20,000, that was a game that really kicked us on, but we didn't get promoted, we failed. So can we stop banging on about last season, please?
It's not. It's a challenge for the football club, no doubt, but it's not new, and it would be an excuse to sit here and talk about Valley Parade in a negative way.
Just less than 20 minutes remaining of what is a West Yorkshire Sport Daily special here on BBC Radio Leeds, a Bradford City fans forum with myself, Jamie Rayner, first team manager Graham Alexander, chief executive of the football club Ryan Sparks, and head of recruitment Stephen Gent with us in the BBC Radio Leeds studio. We've discussed their Valley Parade, we've discussed the home form. You touched on it there, Ryan, in regards to, I guess, the connection with the supporters, the engagement, the communication. We talk about the fact that the club doesn't own the stadium, the club doesn't own the training ground, but one massive asset to this football club, certainly at League Two level, is the fan base and the season ticket sales. Record season ticket sales, previous financial year, I think I'm right in saying. This question from Adam Hollings. What can Mr. Sparks say that is going to convince supporters like myself who are not going to renew my season ticket due to the lack of a plan and blueprint of Bradford City? It seems we tried to get lucky with hiring and firing of with managers. I've been going to Valley Parade for over 30 years and I won't be going next season while the current owner and chief executive are in place, and would rather spend my money and time going to away games. Fan engagement is at an all-time low. We don't even get updates on players' injuries direct from the club. I mean, I'll answer that last bit. We do obviously report that on BBC Radio Leeds in regards to the injuries, as we do in the local media as well. But just on that point, Adam there, over 30 years he's been coming to the football club, and that's how he feels about it right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, obviously. And I think that...
I would also like to add that, as I mentioned in part 1 of this, that there's a lot of people feeling that way. A lot of people discontent with the football club, and a lot of people who have been long-term fans of this football club, season ticket holders for 20, 30, 40 years, who just won't be there next season. Well, this is the current ownership, and the leadership at this football club is in the state that it's in at the moment.
I think on-field results can dictate a lot of feeling. I know, the club in itself is absolutely no different, minus a couple of staff that have moved on and a couple of staff we've added in and a different manager at the moment now than it was last season. It's the same football club. We've got the same plan, the same ethos and the same set of values, and we work to them. As I said, earlier in the show.
See, the thing is, Ryan Sparks always bangs on about the values, the ethos, but does anyone actually know what this is? Like, I would genuinely wonder if the staff at the football club actually know what this is, because it's never anything that's disclosed publicly, but he always bangs on about the strategy and the ethos, but no one actually really knows what that is.
Sure, that hasn't changed. We're not looking to get lucky with a manager. I can't talk for the past, and in the recent past, there has been a manager who did really well at this football club. He was given time, and given time, but you could see the results, and you could see what was underpinning that time. And what I have to do is reflect on the data and the metrics of the team and how it's actually performing, and if it's going in the right direction. And as a club, it's my responsibility to keep it going in the right direction.
David Rushby asks this question. It was a similar question actually from Andrew Roebuck as well. But he says, Ryan, where and how do you read and listen to the views of the fans? And if so, do you value their opinions?
100%. I've answered over 30 emails this week myself. If you want anyone who's emailed me, and with respect, and hasn't carried any abuse in the email, I've responded. That's the only thing I won't respond to is abuse. And I've had a little bit of that, but
that's fairly understandable. I think that's probably the same in every job. You won't be responding to the abusive email, so you can't really blame him for that.
It comes with the territory, I understand. I think we didn't touch on that in the last thing. Our communication strategy hasn't actually changed, and I think we will do 2 forums this season. I think it's very important that we did this one with you.
This doesn't count as a fans forum. I think mandatory by the EFL, you have to do 1 a season in person. You look at Gillingham last night, their fans forum looked really good with actual in person, but this is not a fans forum. This is an interview from BBC Radio Leeds. Big credit to Jamie Raynor, who is asking some pretty difficult questions here, and he's certainly putting Ryan Sparks and Stephen Gent on the spot. I think Alexander has caught with it pretty well. I think Alexander speaks well. Stephen Gent struggling a little bit, and Ryan Sparks isn't really telling us much.
You guys first. It was something you requested of us in December, and I think we spoke to our media staff, said let's get January out of the way, so we've got plenty to chat about. And the reason that I think that's important is because we're coming into essentially a third party with a respected journalist who's going to ask questions that we haven't read, we haven't had emailed to us. There's nowhere for us to hide, and there's accountability and hold us to task in the right way. So that hasn't changed. I attend a supporters board meeting every month. I have done since the day I took the job, in fact.
But the supporters board don't really reflect what the fans actually want. Some of the questions that they ask, and some of the answers as well from Ryan Sparks, a lot of it is just, we're not planning to do that. We're not looking into that. Like, I think there was one question from the supporters board about Midland Road being closed for, 20, 30 minutes after some match days when the away fans bring a big following. And obviously when that's closed, you have to walk up the big hill to walk past the petrol station to walk back down again, which is really, really stupid. But it's, for some reason, one of the only very few football clubs that actually stop our fans from going into our own town, which I don't really understand. I don't know if that's a football club decision or a police decision, but for a lot of older people or maybe disabled people, that's pretty much, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's a very hard task to do. And I think Ryan Sparks' response to that, well, you could always wait 20, 30 minutes, in the freezing cold when it could be raining, snowing, etc. The way he answered some of the questions was poor, but even some of the questions from the supporters board, they're also pretty poor as well.
I rebuilt this supporters board because it didn't exist, and fan engagement's really important to me. And any supporter that comes with an opinion or some information that can help us and assist us, very, very important to us.
You might have answered this next question then from Joe Buckers, and again acknowledging some of the fans that had a similar question: Finlay Robinson, James Molyneux, Nigel Young, Ray Lithgow, Nick Foster. Why is this fans forum being held with no fans present?
Well, I think I just answered.
So there will be another forum later this season.
Well, there was one last year. If you remember, we did one last year as well. We did one the year before. I think the last one we did in person was off a 3-0 defeat. Was with Mark last summer in June. We didn't do one with Radio Leeds. There wasn't actually much demand to do one, if we're being honest.
Sorry, he's just gone, the last fans forum was when we had a 3-0 defeat. Oh no, wait, he was actually in the summer with Mark Hughes. So, where's this 3-0 defeat come from?
Often when results are better on the pitch, I can understand why, and that's fair enough. And the year before, I remember it vividly because we'd come off a 3-0 defeat at Carlisle and gone 15th in the league. So
3-0 defeat at Carlisle? Oh, that must have been the COVID season, potentially. Yeah, I mean, that was not... we could have a fans forum. A fans forum, to me, is something where the fans are actually there in person, able to ask the questions, and then able to ask a follow-up to the answers. Because while Jamie Rayner is asking some good questions here, he's not really following up on some of the things that Ryan Sparks and Stephen Gent are letting slip through.
We do. That has, ever since I've been in the building, I've made sure we've done the forums, come sunshine or clouds, and that won't change. And we'll definitely do one in person this season.
Good news,
Still
good
plenty
news.
more topics to get through on this Bradford City Fans Forum here on BBC Radio Leeds. We'll talk about the finances, budget, and we'll also talk about the ownership as well. I know that's a big talking point for supporters that have got in touch. But this is a question that I get asked nearly every single week, and I'm not sure if there's been an official line on it. Bobby Poynton, such an asset to the football club. Supporters absolutely love him. He's an academy product. He's a Bradford City fan. He comes from the area. Albert Pitts says, when are we going to tie up the contract on our youth prospects like Bobby Poynton, who's out of contract at the end of the year? What is happening with Bobby Poynton?
Well, what's happening with Bobby is only what's happening with everyone else in our squad. We have a very clear way of working. Again, an improvement we wanted to make to the football department was a little bit of control over our contracts, because the first summer that I came to as a chief executive, we had no control over what was going to happen to our players. and it made it very difficult for us to compete financially to keep some of them. So every player in the squad, apart from two, we have options in our favour.
I think I mentioned that in part one. That's Harry Chapman and Matty Platt, I'm pretty sure. But they both do have options, I think, if we get promoted this season. Obviously, they're both out of a deal in the summer.
And we won't be taking up any options or changing anyone's contracts until the end of the season.
See, this is a club policy. I never understand it. I just don't get it. It's not necessarily about just having the option at the end of the year. Say you trigger that option at the end of this season. What are we then going to do next summer when they're in the exact same position? Bobby Poynton is far better than, or much more of a talent than players like Finn Cousin-Dawson and even Rhys Staunton. And they were given 3.5, 4-year contracts in the COVID season by Ryan Sparks. Finn Cousin-Dawson is still contracted to Bradford City. He's out of a deal in this summer, but he was given a 3.5-year contract, I'm pretty sure, and he hasn't played for the last 2 years. But Bobby Poynton, he could potentially walk away in the summer for free, because Alexander doesn't really use him all too much, or certainly sees him more as an impact substitute, unfortunately. And yes, we've got the option in our favour, but what are we going to do next summer when the players are in the exact same position? What do we do then?
And the players are well aware of that.
Anything to add, Stephen, just on Bobby?
No, I mean, listen, he's done fantastically well. Probably, when he obviously came in pre-season and joined in with a group, he's been a real bonus for us, if you like, in terms of adding him, into the squad. So again, touching on sort of strategy, philosophy, is obviously bringing them younger players into the first team group. And obviously Bobby did that, under Mark, and he's done really well, and I'm sure he'll continue to do that.
Let's move on to finances, budget, and the like. I'm actually going to throw my question myself, actually. I'm just interested to know if you were to strip the table back and just judge the standings of League Two right now purely on budget size, where would Bradford City sit this season?
Well, it's difficult to say because after January you appreciate there's been a lot of spending, and then there's a snapshot of where the EFL records a proposed budget, but actually then the summer window rolls on for another month, so things change. But we've got a budget that can put us in the playoffs. We've got a top 7 budget, and last season we had a top 3 budget. The reason we don't have a top 3 budget this season is because some of the teams in the top 3 are spending money that we simply don't have.
So we've gone from a top 3 to a top 7 budget, but some of the teams that got relegated last year from League One are the likes of Forest Green, Accrington, off the top of my head. Like, these are not big spenders. Morecambe, these are not big spenders. Obviously, the 2 big ones came up from the National League in Notts County and Wrexham. Obviously, Wrexham definitely have a bigger budget. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that Notts County have only got like a mid-table budget, but I wouldn't read into that all too much. I know their starting 11's quite good, but their squad as a whole isn't particularly great, so I wouldn't put it past Notts County, to be honest with you. So I don't understand how we can go from having a top 3 budget down to a top 7 budget while improving our own budget, and only really Wrexham and maybe Notts County have potentially added to the league. So I don't really understand that too much, to be honest.
And not only that, they're allowed to. SCMP is the way it's essentially a very soft salary cap based on your football-related turnover. You're allowed to spend half of it on player wages. And that includes all forms, so whether it's accommodation, medical, agent fees, it all goes into the mix. And some clubs, have certain revenue streams that we simply don't have. Documentaries, for example,
Wrexham,
and their turnover gives them far bigger opportunities.
Would you look at that, possibly? Documentary?
Well, I think we might need Ryan Reynolds to help us with that. But yeah, we can look at it. But if someone who's a Hollywood actor would like to buy us and do a documentary, I reckon we could have a go at it. Yeah. So
is Ryan Sparks asking for offers at the football club there? I wonder if that might get him in a little bit of trouble with Stefan Rupp. I mean, he was more tongue-in-cheek, really. But yeah, he's... I feel like if we got a new owner, though, I don't think Ryan Sparks would still be sat in the seat that he sits in today.
You could host it.
Hey, look. Well, you've done one, haven't you, Graham?
Yes, I have.
How did you find that?
Unique, interesting, some fun, some things not so fun. So, I know it gives supporters an insight that they don't usually get, but sometimes it's not the real insight that they need, or the real picture. That's my experience of it. I'm not talking about any others, and the one that I was involved in, it was done with good people and good intentions. But, there was sometimes a bit of a crossover that was not great.
Just to stick with the budget topic that we're talking about right now, this one from James Verity, and again Mitchell Wilson, Bradley Marsden, David Wright all got in touch with a similar kind of question, just regarding next season's season ticket campaign. James says the upcoming season ticket campaign, in his opinion, is highly unlikely to generate the same amount of sales as last year. I think numbers will be substantially down on last year. Will Mr. Rupp be making a financial input to cover the likely hole in the budget for next season? And look, people can see with their own eyes when they look at the attendance for the Salford game and the Wimbledon game. It hasn't been the Valley Parade that we've seen in recent times as full as it could be. No,
and that's because the team haven't been winning, and then winning at home is what we saw. People.
I'm not so sure that's the reason. Obviously, not winning on the pitch does impact some things, but I feel like it's not just a one-off game. We've still been winning in cup competitions, and you look at the ticket sales in that cup competition. What are we, 2,000 or 3,000 for a semi-final? I feel like the club would have been expecting a lot more than that. And, Ryan Sparks can keep sweeping it under the carpet, but when he does see the season ticket sales next season, I think he's going to be very concerned.
Well, last season to see those moments, and of course, there were towards the end of the season, the Leyton Orient game, I think, was a record crowd for us in a league match. And the playoffs was another record. So, yeah, it's an event, and people want to come to it. Not many people don't want to see us at the wrong end of the table, and I get that. In terms of budget, any budget, and there's still when you're running a model of sustainability, unless you're about to put some money in a bank account and keep it, it's a moving target, because we're live in a competition that could take us. We're live in 2 competitions that could end very well for us and would have massive.
See, he's had a little bit of a slip up there. Ryan Sparks knows deep down we are not getting the playoffs this season. Yes, we could achieve getting to Wembley in the EFL Trophy, but he knows deep down, and he's had a little bit of a slip up there, that there's no chance of us getting playoffs. Obviously, they've all got to come out and say, we're ambitious, we're still going to get in the playoffs. The manager, the players, they're all going to do the same, because that is what the media-trained thing to do is. But the likelihood of us getting in the playoffs has got to be about 1 to 7,000, because it's just not going to happen, is it?
A massive outcome for us going into next season in what we can afford to spend and the position of the club, both from a cash and budgeting perspective. As always, place on the table a budget, and if our owner felt as though that wasn't going to be competitive, that's a conversation that I need to have with him. But our intention and my intention is to ensure we have a competitive budget throughout.
It moves us on actually to the point which, again,
just on the budget actually there as well. What is the budget for? Is it for avoiding relegation to the National League? Is it to stay up and don't go bust?
A number of fans have got in touch with regarding the overall ownership. And look, let's make it absolutely clear. Stefan Rupp isn't in the studio right now. He isn't here to answer those questions directly. A lot of you that got in touch were directing your questions straight towards Stefan Rupp. He simply isn't here to answer those questions. But Howard Ratcliffe asks, along with Steve Baker, Matthew Scott and Bradley Etheridge, has Stefan Rupp received any more offers to buy the club, formal or informal, other than from Wagme United, who went public themselves? And obviously Stefan did respond to that publicly as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say too much, 'cause I'm bound by non-disclosures. When a party approaches Bradford City, it's part of my job is to support any level of due diligence, and I've done that on a couple.
So it took us 50 minutes to get to one of his favourite catchphrases with due diligence. I'm surprised it's taken, just over 50 minutes for us to get through to them 2 words. But we couldn't go one interview without hearing it, could we?
Couple of occasions since I've been chief executive, there are numbers of expressions of interest via agents, sometimes via people I know, sometimes people Stefan knows, but when you say an offer is an actual written down offer that is accepted or rejected. And to my knowledge, I've not been aware of a specific offer. Of course, figures will have been discussed. There have been people. We're an attractive football club. We're virtually self-sustaining at the very worst. We've got an incredible fan base, and we are an asset in the EFL. So you're always going to have interest, but it's not for me to sit here and discuss selling a business that I don't own. My job is to run the business that I'm tasked to run to a clear mandate, and I do my very best to do that.
You're in direct communication with him, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, is he actively looking to sell the football club?
I think every club in the EFL's for sale, if we're being honest. I think...
Stop talking about other clubs. Just give us a yes or a no answer. Surely you know if Stefan Rupp wants to sell the club. You must do. You are the main man apart from Stefan Rupp. You are the man that everybody's going to come to and ask this question to, because Stefan Rupp is hiding, basically. You must know, surely. It's a simple yes or no question again, and we're going to go round and round in circles talking about other clubs.
Actively looking to sell it would be him saying to me, I want you to spend every day trying to find me a buyer. That's not what I've been told to do.
All right, so the answer is pretty much no, but we're obviously open to offers.
I think if someone approached him and he wished to sell it, then that's a question for him to answer. It's not a question for me to answer. I can't sit here and say he wants to sell it or he doesn't. Actively selling it, I don't think that's not something, they're not words that I've been handed, really. And, I see figures bandied around, and I said it in another interview recently. It's not for me to decide what the value of Bradford City is. I probably know what it is, if I'm being honest, because I'm the one running it. But that's not, my opinion's irrelevant in that.
You've been very clear this hour, Ryan, that the mandate is, as we've known for quite some time, to run a self-sufficient business. And obviously, as we've discussed, look, the fan base are an enormous asset to this football club. Yeah. Are you fearful of what the season ticket sales forecast is going to look like?
Another good question.
For next season?
Well, no CEO wants to see a season ticket sales reduce ever. So I don't want that to happen. And I know that to ensure that doesn't happen, we have to be worth watching. You know, when I took over, I think we're at 13,700 or something like that, and we're at 15 now, over 15, and we've grown every year to record levels in league.
Well, we'll be a lot less than that next season. We will be nowhere near 15,000 season ticket holders next season. Absolutely no chance. You could put the price down to 20 quid and you won't get anywhere near that.
League Two. And I think that's because we try to be ambitious and attack the division and show that we're going to be back in the fight and we're not going to drift out of the division, which is where we were in 2020, 2021. And
we're not far away from that now.
That has to equal results for people, and I understand that. And you know, that is the focus. The focus is on us putting results on the table for people to watch us. Ultimately, people want to watch a winning team. You know, I'm not going to sit there and talk too much about off-field matters, because while it provides the budget, I know people would prefer us just to win on the pitch. I understand that. The two go hand in hand. And you know, it's our job to make sure, one, we put a competitive and attractive package on the table for season ticket holders to watch and to purchase.
I mean, obviously that's the commercial side of things, Graham. From your perspective, how conscious are you of that? You want to put out a team that wins, of course, but are you also conscious of wanting to have a team that can entertain as well? Or I suppose winning would provide that entertainment?
In my experience of 35 years of football, it's the winning that is the biggest priority. It really is. Listen, we want to play in a way that I think the fans can relate to, and I think my experience of playing here before, of managing here before, I think they've seen teams that get at others, that play in an aggressive fashion, that compete well.
Just like how we played under Phil Parkinson, just like how we played under Stuart McCall the second time round. They're the sort of teams that we need to be aiming to play like.
That work exceptionally hard. We're trying to create that. I think we had that for a good period. I think we've had our issues in maintaining that, so we have to try and fix that. But it's winning. I'm not stupid. I know what the game is, and everyone wants to be successful. Not everyone can achieve success, I think, and there's different levels of expectation in all the divisions, and certainly the expectation of 18,000 fans in League Two should demand wins. That's how I see it. But we want to sign, you know, and going back to, you know, the question to Jenny about recruitment, about players, you know, if you look at and I consider Jake to be a new player for me, because obviously I had no experience of managing before, but him, Torrey Wright, Callum Kavanagh, three dynamic, exciting players that forward thinking, want to score goals. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to create with our team. There's still a long way to go with that. We've had, myself and Chris, along with these guys, have had, you know, one transfer window to try to improve a little bit. I didn't want to make vast changes because I still believe this squad has good quality in it. But I see a fast, exciting team that we can create, and that's how we want to play our football.
So there we go then. Bradford City's fans forum done. About an hour and a half of your time I've taken there, so I can only apologise. To summarise, we are trying to recruit like Peterborough United. The strategy is to not get relegated and don't go bust. Jamie Walker has got a fracture in his leg. Our medical bills are a lot lower than what they were a couple of years ago. Is there anything else that I've missed there off the top of my head? Stefan Ruppy's not actively looking to sell the football club. And I feel like that overall went negative. It went more negative than it went positive. There was very, very few positives that we've learned or come out of that fans forum from knowing. Obviously, it's good that there is going to be an in-person fans forum this season. That is absolutely must need, and I'll very much so look forward to that. But I don't want to take any more of your time, and I've taken an hour and a half of it, so thank you all very much for sticking with me. And as always, get your thoughts in it down in the comment section down below. That is the most important thing. But thank you all for watching. Make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another video. Peace.